Hi, welcome here and welcome back to this knitting channel. My name is Anna and I live east of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, out in the country with my family. And this is a channel where I talk about knitting and knitting projects and things that I'm planning on knitting and things that I have knit and things that I've learned along the way. And I'm really glad you're here. Today I'll be talking about a lot of different things, but I will start off with what I have finished knitting, things that I'm working on currently. I'll talk a little bit about things that are in my knitting pattern shop and things I may have acquired since the last podcast. And finally, I will talk about some knitted things that I've seen that have inspired me, and I'll make any recommendations for knitting podcasts. And finally, I have a couple stories to tell. So let's get started. So to start off with, if you're interested in what I'm wearing today, it is not a pattern. It is a self-drafted sweater that I made last year as a palette cleanser between designing things. I just wanted a sweater that I could cast on and work without taking any notes or doing any real thinking. So it's a raglan, compound raglan. It was worked from the top down with a folded neckline, and it is in Custom Woolen Mills 1-ply, single ply yarn, which is spun from wool raised here in Alberta. It's spun in Alberta in Carstairs, which is south of me, about a few hours. And I really enjoy the finished product, but it wasn't very fun to knit with just because their single ply yarn has quite a bit of twist in the yarn that is not counterbalanced by a second ply. So it's like working with, if you're as old as me and you remember phone cords, when it gets all twisted and then you stretch it out and you let go of the phone cord and it goes back into its twisted mess. That's what a single ply yarn reminds me of. It wants to twist on itself, so you're constantly having to counteract that, but it works into a really nice cohesive material that is warm and not too scratchy, and it's 100% local to Alberta. So that's what I'm wearing. For finished objects, I don't have much. I did finish the cabled hat that I was talking about starting in my last episode. This is the Pine hat by Layla Raven, and it was in the Making magazine summer issue of this year called Outside. And it's got this beautiful 1x1 cable that runs up the middle and some decreases and baubles. I did do some modifications, so I knit it in a DK weight yarn from the Yak Yarnery, and I didn't change stitch count, so it's a tighter gauge than the original pattern, and so it made a smaller hat. But I have a small head and always find if I follow patterns for my size of head, they don't stay on. They're too big and they slip around on my slippery hair. So it made a smaller size hat, but I'm quite happy with the fit. And it actually stays on my head. And I like the shape of it. The other modification is that I did twisted stitches instead of 1x1 cables. So twisted stitches, you don't slip a stitch off your needle. You're constantly working 2 stitches at the same time, which causes them to cross over each other, but it has the same look of a 1x1 cable. So I did the 1x1 cable for the first repeat, this one here. And then the second repeat I did twisted stitches, and yeah, they look pretty much identical. Yeah, I really enjoyed that pattern and I would recommend it. I really like how I always enjoy when a hat's ribbing goes into the pattern, and this one just does it so nicely with this central decrease going right through to the ribbing on the bottom. And the yarn was really lovely to work with too, from Erin of the Yak Yarnery. She gave that to me as a gift when I visited her store and purchased some other things. And yeah, it will make a really nice hat. I have not weaved in the ends, but I might be motivated now as the weather is getting cooler today. There's a new weather system blowing in, which is why it's so windy. So hopefully you can't hear that howling wind out there, but that might motivate me to weave in some ends on this hat. So that's pretty much my only finished object. I did finish some swatches. These are all the swatches that I did since the last podcast. And I'm currently working on another one. That doesn't include all the ones that didn't work out and I ripped out. So that's pretty much all I've been doing for the past couple weeks. I do have some works in progress though. I will start off with the Seed Star hat. This is a collaboration with the Fiber Company, and it's being worked in their lace weight yarn called Meadow. This is the color Bed Straw. And it is very lovely to work with, but it is very fine. So this is the Seed Star hat that I'm working on. And it's going very slowly, but I'm happy to say that I think I have the pattern written. So I just need to get it tech edited and tested and finish my own sample. So this is coming out July of next year, so I do have a fair amount of time, but still a lot of stitches to knit. And I worked a little bit on my Gardy Cardi. The last time I talked to you, I had taken off a section of the bottom and was re-knitting it because I didn't like the original transition of colors. However, I don't really like this one, what I've done to fix it much better. I just don't like that jarring change from orange to white to green. So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of stalled on this one. I haven't had really time to work on it, but it is an easy project to pick up and put down, so I probably would have worked on it a little bit. I really like this first transition. This part here I don't love, and then this part down here I hate. I would never wear that. It's just too stripy for my own liking. So I don't really know what to do. The problem is I would continue just with this saturation of color, but I don't have much of it. I really only have orange left. And I don't know. I guess it would be okay with orange on the bottom, but orange isn't my favorite color, so there is a fair amount of orange in there already, so I might just need to get over it. Yeah, anyway, that one is just kind of stalled, which is too bad because I kind of really wanted to get it going, and I had the thought that I could get it to finish the body and then write it and start testing, at least have like testers for the larger sizes start so that we can get it moving, so maybe it wouldn't take me a year like every other sweater pattern has. But anyway, yeah, I really like this top half and I really don't like this bottom half. So that's as much as I've done on that one. Yeah, so that's all the projects I have. So not that exciting in that department. Sorry about that. For shop news, I did release the Lennox pullover. So that was, when did I release it? Last Thursday. So the sale, I always do a 50% off sale, and so that is done now. But thank you to everyone who took part in the sale and supported that pattern on its release. It was my most successful pattern ever so far, and I was very pleased with how it did, and so that was really nice. I have nothing else going on now. There are no patterns in testing. I have no patterns that are in tech editing. I have some patterns written, but I'm not sure if I want to start testing them now or not. It takes a lot of brain space, so I'm kind of wanting to get submissions done and find out whether they were accepted or not before I start filling my plate with independent designs. So I'm kind of just in a standstill at the moment, but it's okay. It seems like every time I open my email, there's a new submission call that I want to submit to. They're just so inspiring, and every time I open my email, I have a whole bunch of new ideas of things I want to do, so that is not a bad problem to have, and to be able to have the time to pursue this, I feel very privileged to do that. So yeah, so there's not much on the independent design side of my business at the moment. Yeah, I think one side of the Lennox pullover that I wanted to share was that for testers for big designs like that. So I've designed and released 3 full pullovers with sleeves, and they are a lot of stitches to knit that testers knit for free, that contribute their own money for their yarn and their own time. And I always give testers, obviously they get the final pattern in their library, but of the one that they tested, and I also give them a free pattern of their choice from my Ravelry store or website or whatever. But I just don't feel like that's enough when you have a full long-sleeved pullover that people have put months of their time into working. So I run a tester giveaway draw at the end of these test knits, and I just pick some skeins from my stash and mail them to the winner. So this was the winning skeins from this time, from the Lennox Pullover Tester pool. It is Eco Tweed that I ordered from the Yak Yarnery. It is wool and viscose blend, and it's what I used to design the Always collection. And you could hold it double to knit the Always vest or the Evermore vest. So yeah, I just thought that was of interest to people who maybe wonder how different designers do run test knits. So I wish that I could give everybody who test knits for me a prize, not just the ones who test knit big garments, but unfortunately I cannot afford the prize or postage for all those things. But I hope that doing a giveaway, sort of like a knit along then, shows my appreciation to these testers. So for acquisitions, I have not been to any yarn stores and I have not ordered anything online. But lovely Stephanie from The Creative Knitter, which is a yarn store in Ontario, which my friend Julia now works at. She sent me a gift, unsolicited gift, which Julia told me that something was coming my way, but I had no idea. I just thought it was going to be maybe a couple mini skeins and some notions, but she sent this entire box of her yarn. Sorry about the noise there. Okay, so this is from Stephanie's Homebody collection. So she just released it last Friday, and this is not all of it. I think there's quite a few more colors than this, but these ones, this way, these 4 skeins. So it's all a sock yarn. This one's called Plant Lady. I have a few of those in my life, some Plant Ladies. And this one is Succulents. I love succulents, but I kill them. And this one is Hearth. A beautiful gray with speckles of brown. And this one is called Let's Stay Home, and it's like a tweed. Yeah, so that was a lovely surprise. Oh, this one's DK. I thought they were all sock. There's Rustic DK, which is a superwash merino with tweed. And this one's Creative DK, which is a superwash merino. And this one's Rustic Sock, because it's a tweed, but it's superwash merino and yeah, Donegal Neps. And this one is Classic Sock with nylon. So these 2 are DK and these 2 are fingering weight. So thank you, Stephanie. That was a beautiful gift. And I will have to think about what I'm going to do with them. Stephanie is coming up on 1 year of her store's, a 1 year birthday of her store. She opened last year, so you should check her out on Instagram. I think she has some sales going on this weekend to celebrate that. So that's all for acquisitions. I have a little update on my wooden needles that I tried to fix. So you can see I have a metal needle and a wooden needle on this project, and that's because I enjoy knitting this yarn with wooden needles, but I only have one wooden needle of this size because my wooden needles were broken by a certain wonderful child of mine. So I tried to glue them together with wood glue, but it didn't stay glued for long. But somebody told me, I think it was Kathy, one of my testers, said that she uses Gorilla Glue to glue her needles, her wood needles back together. So I think I will give that a shot next time because it fits together perfectly like a little puzzle piece. So I just need something to stick there that will stay. So I'm going to try Gorilla Glue before I give up on those entirely. And I have them just stuck in my little shorties case so I don't lose them. Okay, we're flying through this episode. Next I have dream knitting. So I thought I would include a section in my podcast where I talk about the things that have inspired me. Even though I find that I don't have time to knit other people's patterns very often, it doesn't mean that I don't want to. And there are so many amazing designers and patterns out there. We are just blessed with choice. So I thought I would share maybe things that I would knit if I had the time and the unlimited resources and yarn to do all these things that we all want to do. So first is, I think it's called Deshane. So it's by Layla Raven, who did the pine hat that I finished this week. I saw this on the A Knitter's Soul podcast, which is a new podcast I just started watching, and I can highly recommend. She did one of these. So this is the top. So I think it's gorgeous. The one that A Knitter's Soul did is in white, and this one is in a dark color. It is an Aran weight, so I don't have the yarn for that. I do have a DK linen that I could maybe hack the pattern for. But here's what I would do. If I knit this pattern, I would keep this lace the same, but then this lace down here, I would take out the eyelets and I would put in a different kind of increase. So you would still get the scoop of the lacy look, but then you would have a solid, like this part would be solid, because currently you have to wear I would have to wear something underneath that. But if you just had the lace here, the eyelets, and then you changed it for like a make one or a lifted increase or something that increases the stitch count in the same way that lace does, but without adding eyelets, you would have just a little bit of lace on the top, and then the rest would have that scalloped edge. and you would still do like all the texture in there, or I would still do all the texture in there, but the it wouldn't have the holes. So that's what I would do. And then the other one that I really wanted to make that I saw this week is the rosary jumper, which is it's a vintage pattern that a Rosary Apparel, which is a channel here on YouTube, a sewing channel, but she also knits. She knit this vintage pattern from her mom's like pattern stash, and then so many people asked her where to get that pattern that she asked the original publisher if she could share it. So if you sign up to her newsletter, you can get this pattern for free, and it's a beautiful lace and garter stitch pattern, and the fit is very it has a lot of waist shaping like a lot of vintage patterns do. Yeah, I will link her the video that she talks about it in, because she puts it on there, and it's just really pretty on. And I think it would be a very wearable piece with the lace. It wouldn't be so hot. Anyway, yeah, I really want to do that one. I have not signed up for the newsletter to like stop myself from casting it on, so I don't know what yarn weight or needle size or anything that she used, but if you sign up for her newsletter, you can get it for free and figure that out for yourself. Yeah, I only have one recommendation this week. Thanks to Dominique, who watches this channel and recommended this episode. There was a episode by Roxanne Richardson, she has a knitting podcast and a big following, and she just talks about her journey to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and she's very candid and shares exactly how much work she does for it and how little she gets paid, and I found it very educational. And I think anyone who thinks about starting a YouTube podcast should probably watch that, and just, yeah, if you're in it for money, you're going to be severely disappointed, but if you're in it for community and expanding your knitting world, then that might be a good reason to do it. So I would recommend watching that episode. I personally found it discouraging and encouraging at the same time. Okay, I think I'm already at the story time section. So I really breezed through that. I'm sorry that it probably feels a little bit rushed to watch me today. I feel a little bit scattered. It might be the wind. Lots of time I get like this weird energy when there's a lot of wind, but it also could just be that my day is very busy, because it is, and so I'm just trying to fit this in when I can. So yeah, okay, so I was going to tell you a story. I thought I would start calling this section Spin Me a Yarn, even though in English that's a saying that usually means you're exaggerating or elaborating on if it's a true story, or else you're like completely making up a story. But I thought that I should, yeah, I mean, it says Spin Me a Yarn, so, and this is a knitting podcast, and I'm telling a story, so it seems to all connect. So these are all true stories, and I'm not very good at elaborating on stories, so it's definitely not a yarn, but I thought it was a cute name. So over Thanksgiving weekend, we hosted Thanksgiving dinner with my brother's family, their kids, and my mom was here too. My dad was away on an international trip. So we were having Thanksgiving dinner here that evening, and the main toilet stopped flushing, and I knew immediately why that was. It's because I flushed a toothbrush down the toilet a week before because I was cleaning our windows, and we have a very large house. That's not a brag, it's just a fact. It's not something I ever wanted, but I'm very grateful that we do have the home we have. And so I spent an entire day taking out screens and washing the insides of the windows. And when you do that big job, you might as well do it right, because I didn't wash my windows in like 3 years since we moved, and I didn't plan on washing them for another 3 years. So I brought out my cleaning toothbrush. Do you have one of those? And I scrubbed every little nook and cranny of those windowsills. And I was up on the kitchen counter cleaning the kitchen window, and I said to my husband, "Hey babe, can you dig that toothbrush out of the bottom of that bucket?" And of course by then the water's completely black, and he searched in there and he could not find it. He's like, "I don't know." I was like, "Oh, I must have like left it on a different windowsill." So I went and looked around and I could not find it, and then I realized I flushed a toothbrush down the toilet. I had dumped out this mop bucket and the toothbrush was in it, and it went down the drain so fast I didn't even see it go into the toilet bowl. So that poor little toilet kept chugging along for a week, and then it just quit. So morning of Thanksgiving, my husband had to take the toilet completely off the floor and dig out this toothbrush, which he did get out, and the day was saved. But I thought that was funny, and I told my dad this story through email, and he said his response was, "It's a good husband who digs a toothbrush you flushed out of the toilet and doesn't chase you around the house with it." Do you have any toothbrush or toilet flushing stories? Tell me, do you use toothbrushes for things that aren't for your teeth? Do you have those toothbrushes with like big permanent marker on them? This is a cleaning toothbrush. Or have you flushed anything down the toilet recently that somebody had to dig out for you? Now I have a bucket caddy on the top of my cleaning bucket. So that was my husband's brilliant idea. So now I can put my toothbrush and my rag, because I have flushed a rag down the toilet before too. And I can put those in the top of this caddy, and then at least I'll remember that there's something in the bucket before I dump it down the toilet. Okay, so I have one more story. It's a farm story. I know a lot of you really want to see the farm, and I have thought about doing a vlog of our life here. However, there are 7 other people who live their private lives on this property, and 4 of them are minors. So I'm not very comfortable doing a vlog that is all encompassing. I might do like a little tour of the chicken coop or the sheep area, or maybe some of the trails around. I'm just not sure quite yet what to do about that. It is beautiful here, and yeah, I understand why everybody wants to see where we live, but I'm responsible for the safety and security of some of these people, and other people have their right to privacy, so I'm not sure about that. However, I do have a story about the chickens. So we have 12 chickens. They are my mom's chickens. We just take care of them when she's not around. And we have one chicken named Papercut. So Papercut started out one of our original flock of chicks that we raised. They're just like a set of mongrel chickens from a farm not too far away. And Papercut started out as Apricot because she was this like peachy orange little chick. But my 3-year-old at the time couldn't say Apricot, she could say Papercut. So that's why that name stuck. So Papercut is an Orpington mix, and the Orpington runs strong in this one. So that kind of breed of chicken can be very broody. That means they really want to hatch their chicks. They don't want to leave their eggs behind. So usually in the spring, chickens have this urge to brood, but Papercut has this urge to brood like every 3 months. It's like starting to blizzard and Papercut wants to sit and hatch some eggs in -20 Celsius. But anyway, so usually my mom tries to break her of this habit, which you can do by different means, but mostly it's just trying to get your chicken cold. So that has worked a couple times, but this summer she was not going to break. She was definitely going to keep brooding these chicks. So my mom finally gave in and let her have it, let her brood her chicks. She had 4 eggs. So 2 of them hatched, 2 of them were infertile. There was nothing there. And then of the 2 that hatched, 1 died. So we had 1 chick left. And one of the reasons my mom didn't want her to brood chickens was because when we started out this original flock, we had 12. We had 12 chicks, and 7 of them turned out. Hold on. 10 chicks, and 7 of them turned out to be roosters. So you can't have 7 roosters and 3 chickens, 3 hens. Yeah, that's just not healthy for the hens, and they were getting like beat up and bald spots from where these roosters were taking their feathers out. So the roosters had to go. So my poor mother had to, for the first time, get rid of these roosters. I say get rid of, but really they ended up in our freezer. And so she didn't want to do that again. She didn't want to brood a bunch of chicks and find out they're roosters and then have to get rid of them when she's like raised them from Papercut's eggs. And actually they weren't Papercut's eggs, but that's another story. Basically Papercut was fostering everybody else's eggs. So anyway, so we have this 1 chick, and it grows, we call it, my mom calls it Henry because she wants to not be optimistic and be sure it's a male so that she's not completely crushed when she has to get rid of this rooster. So Henry grows up and she looks exactly like a chicken. She has a short tail, she acts like a chicken, she's fully grown, and none of the hens like her, but our current rooster, Furry Feet, takes care of her, and they are best buds. So at the time we had 50 meat chickens, which you only grow for 8 weeks and then you butcher them. So butcher weekend came and we took care of those. Actually, it was 48 meat chickens plus 2 of my mom's laying hens. One was laying eggs with no shell continually, which would have been fine, except like she just would have been a pet and not produced eggs, except that when they lay eggs with no shells in nests with other eggs, it makes the other eggs covered in goo, and then it becomes unsanitary and you shouldn't really eat them. So she was ruining multiple eggs while not laying usable eggs. And then also there was another hen that was kind of nasty, so personality wise she wasn't working out. So there was 48 meat chickens that we'd raised for 8 weeks and 2 of these laying hens. So we did the deed. We now have a freezer full of chicken. And then wouldn't you know, 2 days later, Henry, who we were calling Henrietta by this point, starts crowing. And sure enough, Henry is a Henry and is a rooster, and is a really nasty rooster to poor furry feet. And he has like no tail left, and he's just a sad little guy. And Henry's walking around, and Henry used to be so sweet and kind, and now the second we butchered these chickens and there was no threat, because we're not going to go through the butchering process, is like a real headache, and to do it for one chicken that you care about just isn't going to happen around here. So anyway, once the threat was passed, then Henry let his true colors shine. So as long as things are mostly peaceful in the chicken coop, then I think we will keep him, but his position is precarious, as all roosters are. Plus he used to be so sweet, and Henry used to come up to us and come for pats, and you could just pick him up, and now he just like runs away, and he pecked my daughter. And yeah, if you have a mean rooster, it's not worth keeping around. So that's the story of Henry and Henrietta. And I think that's all for today. I feel like I was rushed, so I'm sorry about that. I hope you got some knitting time in and some relaxing time, and hopefully I will have some more designs to share with you next time. And I hope you are well, and that you have lots of projects on the go, and that you're enjoying some nice weather. And yeah, I will talk to you next time, and keep on knitting.